Mama fell from the second floor and isn't moving. While cleaning, I accidentally tripped over my husband's stuff and fell from a high place. Seeing this, my 6-year-old daughter, who we'll call Angela, called my husband while crying. In pain, I desperately pleaded. "Please, help me, call an ambulance." However, the response from my husband was unbelievable. "If you can talk, you can probably handle it yourself." Then he said, "I'm busy on a business trip right now," and hung up the phone. At that moment, my consciousness rapidly faded. Whether it was due to the severity of the injury or the despair of being abandoned. The voice of Emily calling for me gradually became quieter, and everything went dark after that. I am a stay-at-home mom raising a 6-year-old child. I used to work as a nurse, but I quit my job when Angela was born, as my husband wished. My husband, who works in sales, does fairly well at his job and provides for the family. At least financially. What I've learned after getting married is that my husband has a very fickle and whimsical personality in his personal life. I was extremely dissatisfied with it. He would start something on a whim without much thought and abandon it shortly after losing interest. As a result, our home is cluttered with his hobby gear and collections he has half-heartedly gathered. Yet, he's terrible at organizing, mixing important items with trivial ones, making it a hassle for me to clean up after him. "Hey, where's the card we bought the other day?" "Oh. I threw that away." "You said you didn't need it anymore." "What? I heard it could sell for a good price, so I wanted to keep it." He would say he didn't need something, only to claim he still needed it days later. Because of this, I had to be careful not to touch his belongings. My husband doesn't take responsibility for his words and doesn't think it's a problem. I could have tolerated his dishonesty if it were only towards objects, but that wasn't the case. "Dad, you promised to go to the park with me today." Sorry. It turns out I have to work suddenly with a colleague." "What? Again? Dad, you said that last time too." "Can't help it. If I don't go, Dad will get scolded by someone important." Breaking promises with the family due to work was a common occurrence. My daughter, Angela, is a smart and obedient child, so she usually bears with a lot. However, that's exactly why it's so sad, and my husband doesn't get it. When I broke a promise on Angela's elementary school entrance ceremony day, we had a huge fight. "I can't make it to the ceremony because of work, but I'll be back at night, so let's go eat Angela's favorite food to celebrate." That's what my husband said, so Angela was waiting at the entrance, saying, "I wonder when Dad will come," all evening. But in the end, he didn't come back until after 10 p.m. The reason was a sudden meeting and entertaining clients. I think I've never been so furious before. Neither my anger nor Angela's sadness seemed to affect my husband. It was like talking to a brick wall. "It's discouraging when I'm working for the family and still get blamed like this," he said, so I was at my wit's end. Maybe it was around that time. His overtime and business trips gradually started to increase, and he paid even less attention to the family. In the same year, December, I was busy with an early big cleanup. I wanted to have a party in the cleaned room because Angela's birthday was coming up. The birthday party for the three of us was something Angela was looking forward to, and my husband should have noticed that. "Are you still going to wear these stained clothes and suits? What about this tie clip?" Even when I asked about his belongings, he wouldn't take his eyes off the documents he was working on. "Just keep the ones that seem usable," was all he would say. If I could make that judgment, I wouldn't need to ask. "Come on, help out a little. It's mostly your stuff, anyway. Don't you see? I'm too busy with work to care about that." Even on days he was home, my husband wouldn't help with childcare or housework. He wouldn't lift a finger but was quick to criticize, a classic pattern. "You're always at home and have plenty of time, just tidy up bit by bit." That bit by bit is impossible. You'll just complain later that this or that is missing. Don't nag like my mom. "I'm going to work in the room." Grumbling under his breath, my husband locked himself in his room. I don't want to be lecturing an adult like a child either. I couldn't help but let out a deep sigh. Yet, familiarity breeds contempt, and lately, my frustrations with him had been fading into the background. Typical marital disputes, a slice of real domestic life, I suppose. I had come to accept it, resignedly. That was until that moment. The incident occurred the day before our daughter's birthday. "What's that about?" Why didn't you say no? My husband had just informed me that he had to go on a sudden business trip for a week. I had no choice. I was the only one available for the job. But Angela's birthday is tomorrow, you know? I know. I'll give you the money for a present, so just buy her something nice with it. It was clear from his attitude that he felt no remorse. Moreover, he hadn't yet told our daughter about it himself. Probably because he wanted to avoid the hassle of dealing with her crying or getting angry, he was pushing that duty onto me. You're breaking another promise? You know how much Angela was looking forward to this, right? I said I'm sorry. Don't use our child to guilt trip me. This is hard for me too. My husband, who had been packing with his back to me, suddenly stood up and burst out in anger. When the CEO makes a request, I can't just say no. I'm working for you and Angela, so try to understand my job a little. Don't make it sound like me and Angela are being unreasonable. Seeing me tear up, my husband seemed to feel guilty and averted his eyes with a slight click of his tongue. Then he said, I'm feeling sick, so I'm gonna stay somewhere else tonight, grabbed his luggage, and left in a hurry. In a heated exchange, I also yelled, just do whatever you want, and slammed the front door shut. Thank goodness Angela was napping. I can't let her see us fighting like this. Despite my tears of frustration, I resumed the chores I had started. I took laundry out of the dryer and headed towards the stairs. At that moment, I considered just stuffing all of my husband's things into his room, and that's when I carelessly stopped paying attention to where I was stepping. Ah! As I cried out, I found myself tumbling through the air. I fell down the stairs with a loud noise and ended up crashing against the wall in the hallway on the first floor. Groaning as I opened my eyes, I saw a bag stuffed with my husband's golf clubs in the hallway on the second floor. I tripped over that, damn. Cursing my own carelessness, I tried to get up, but to my dismay, I couldn't move even a fingertip. Mom! What happened? Are you okay? Angela, probably woken up by the loud noise, rushed out of the bedroom toward me. I tried to say I'm fine, but couldn't even get my voice out. Seeing me just opening and closing my mouth, Angela turned pale and went to the living room. Then she came back with a cell phone, fumbling to turn it on by tapping and shaking the screen, and started to operate it with unaccustomed hands. Dad! Dad, help! Huh? Angela? What's wrong? Mom's fallen on the second floor and can't move. Wait, what? What does that mean? It seemed my daughter had managed to call my husband. By chance, she had pressed the speaker button, and I could hear my husband's voice through the phone. Help, ambulance. I strained my voice from the depths of my throat, begging my husband for help. But the words that came back from him were shockingly callous. Come on, you can talk, right? Then handle it yourself. I'm already on the freeway. His tone was one of irritation and disbelief. And hey, you just told me to do whatever I want, right? As you wish, I'm prioritizing my work. The call was cut off there, leaving behind just me, unable to move, and Angela, crying her eyes out. At that moment, I felt my consciousness rapidly fading away. Was it the despair of being abandoned by my husband, or was it because I hit my head badly? Angela's cries for me became quieter and quieter, and then everything went dark. When I regained consciousness, it was in the evening of that day. Waking up in the hospital, there were my exhausted daughter Angela and my parents. From what my mother told me, Angela had sought help from a neighbor's house, and that's how I was rushed to the emergency room. I had hit my head and back, but fortunately, there were no fractures, and I was told I could be discharged in about 2 days, which was a relief. Angela, thank you for saving me. But about the birthday party, we can't have it now. I'm sorry. It's okay. I was just thinking, what if Mom had died? I'm just glad you're safe. Never has my daughter's kindness touched my heart as much as it did on this day. During my hospital stay, I left Angela in the care of my parents and tried to contact my husband several times, but he neither answered his phone nor replied to my messages. I did inform him about the circumstances of my hospitalization, though. In the end, I was discharged without ever receiving a response from him. Maybe he's sulking because we had a fight just before I left. But still, he could at least show some reaction. While I was frustrated by my husband's childish behavior, not having any contact from him during a week-long business trip was genuinely worrying. I had no idea where he was going, who he was with, or any details because I sent him off without asking. Growing increasingly anxious, I decided to look into my husband's whereabouts after getting discharged. That's right, there was that drawer he absolutely forbade me from touching. He said it contained important work-related items, but that was the only place he specifically mentioned as containing important things. Maybe there are documents related to his business trip in there. That thought struck me intuitively. Upon entering my husband's room and opening that drawer, I found his laptop, which he had stopped using soon after getting a newer model, lying there all alone. Curiously, I powered it on and noticed an intriguing icon on the screen. It appeared to be a social media app that he had set up on the computer but continued to update exclusively from his phone. Oh, you can see what he's posting through the app on the computer too. Wait, what? This is. The moment I saw it, I was glued to the screen. With every post of his that I followed, my anger towards him gradually boiled over. Then, a week after he had left for his business trip, I finally got a call from him. How are you feeling? I just got to the airport. Can you pick me up in the car? I'm exhausted. Hello, Dad? Mom's not here. Angela checked who was on the phone and quietly pressed the speaker button. I could hear my husband's carefree voice. What's up, Angela? Where's Mom? Mom's not here. She's about to burn something. Mom said she's gonna burn it. What? What do you mean? After saying what she wanted, Angela ignored my flustered husband and hung up the phone. Trying hard to suppress my laughter, I scattered something all over the backyard. About 20 minutes later, perhaps. My husband returned home, sweating profusely and dragging his heavy suitcase. Hey! What the hell are you doing? As soon as my husband saw Angela and me in the yard, he screamed, changing color with anger, while we just stared back at him, puzzled. Can't you see? It's a bonfire. We roasted marshmallows and made some s'mores. They're delicious. Even as we smiled and replied, my husband's face remained tense. Then, in a panic, he rushed to the bonfire and doused it with water from a nearby bucket, putting out the fire. What are you doing? We were still roasting. Why are you burning these? He began to stare in dismay at the few items still smoldering. This photo isn't trash, I haven't even read this comic yet, and this towel is a limited edition, he muttered as if to himself. The fuel for our bonfire had been all of my husband's hobby gear and mementos. That's why I said we were going to burn them. Don't worry. I avoided burning the non-burnable trash. Thanks to that, we've cleaned up quite a bit. My husband glared at us as we spoke nonchalantly. Who said you could dispose of everything? There are important things mixed in here. You're the one who said to just do it, however. And stop making confusing calls. I rushed home worried sick. Finally, he even started yelling at Angela. Oh, worried? Like when you abandoned me when I really needed help? Dad's a liar. You knew Mom was hurt and in the hospital, but you didn't even answer your phone. That's... He stammered, avoiding Angela's gaze. Maybe he felt awkward because he had never been seriously scolded by our daughter before. Dad's just busy with work. Well, since everything turned out okay, let's just forget about it. Trying to escape to the entrance, my husband's sleeve was vigorously grabbed by Angela. Apologize to Mom properly. What? It's Mom's fault for making Dad angry. You didn't even celebrate my birthday. My husband, hit where it hurt the most, shook off Angela's hand with a red face. Gently embracing a nearly crying Angela, I told her, go inside, keeping her away from my husband. Everyone's so loud. I didn't choose to go to work for fun. I'm trying hard for the family, what's all this about? Oh, I see. So working hard means playing around in Hawaii with young girls. I marched up to my husband and shoved my phone screen in front of his eyes. This is... What was displayed was his social media page. It was filled with pictures of him enjoying a trip to Hawaii. Oh, and I found this too. As I slowly slid the screen, an article where he complained about his family appeared. Tired, it's bothersome. That's exactly what you say about things. It hit me hard when I first saw this post, and it still does. Realizing he thinks of his family just like he does his possessions, showing his worst traits. I wonder when you'll get tired of the girl you took to Hawaii? I said, tossing the words at him coldly. Yet, he didn't seem the least bit remorseful. Huh? Who, the girl? I just did some sightseeing alone during a break from work. What's wrong with that? Oh, so you have time to enjoy yourself during a business trip. Sounds like a fun job. I'd like to work too. And what? Snooping on someone's social media is an invasion of privacy. You're talking about privacy when your face and name are all over the internet for the world to see? Normally, my husband's sloppiness is just annoying, but in this case, it worked to my advantage. He spread the pictures himself without needing to pay a hefty fee for someone else to do it. Didn't you think to hide it a bit better? Just saying. Shut up. I hate having to mind the details and hold back from doing what I want. I remembered hearing this from him before we got married. Always diving headfirst into whatever caught his fancy. Back then, I admired his curiosity and bravery to try anything without fear of failure. But now, I wish I could go back and shake some sense into my younger self. Lost in these thoughts, my husband let out an exaggerated sigh, clearly annoyed. So? What do you want to do? Do what? Sue me? Or you planning on divorcing? Just so you know, you'd be the one in trouble. Did he think mentioning divorce would make me back down? Under no circumstances is it acceptable to make such statements lightly. You want a divorce because the husband's cheating? You're gonna split over emotions? He twisted his mouth uglily, smirking in a way that completely looked down on me. Someone as simple-minded and a stay-at-home mom like you could never foster love, could you? My husband snorted, concluding with a sense of triumph. It's as if he's saying, don't you dare think you can talk me into anything. However, I responded with a bright smile. Right, let's get a divorce. Be happy with the receptionist at your office. At my words, my husband's expression changed dramatically from before, and he froze in surprise. The girl you went to Hawaii with, she's cute. Being young, she really knows how to take photos for social media. With that, I showed him the posts of his affair partner. In fact, the evidence I found was not only on my husband's social media. I had also identified the account of the woman he was cheating with. While my husband posted as if he was on a casual sightseeing trip alone, her posts told a different story. Photos of them close together in swimsuits, or on a hotel balcony in bathrobes holding champagne glasses, suggested a romantic relationship. Your face is somewhat hidden, but there are photos where it's completely visible. She seems as careless as you are. A perfect match. The content on the affair partner's social media must have shocked him. He showed no sign of responding to my sarcasm. On the days my husband said he had business trips or had to work late, I found articles of him traveling or dating his affair partner, all copied. Additionally, I had called his company immediately after getting discharged. They told me everything once I explained the situation. They said you hadn't been given any business trips, just taking personal leave. Why would you call the company? If a family member doesn't hear from someone who's supposed to be on a business trip for days, it's normal to inquire with the company. I could see my husband's face turn pale. You're quite something, but this girl is even more careless. Not just her name and face, but she's also made her workplace public. So, I know everything about her. That she was the daughter of my husband's boss, the director, and that she had a fiancé, was all information readily available to me. What are you planning? Don't say such unpleasant things. I'm just making you take responsibility for what you've done. Even a young person should understand the consequences of getting involved with a married man with a family. You didn't contact her, did you? Of course, I did. While she was posting in real time on social media, I waited until the moment she and my husband parted ways at the airport after returning from Hawaii. I immediately called her. I calmly explained that having an affair within the company was malicious and that I would discuss it with the company. I also told her I would sue her for knowing my husband was married and still getting involved with him. But she's not a bad kid, you know. Unlike you, she didn't get defensive or make excuses and sincerely apologized to me. What? She's willing to pay compensation and accept any demands humbly. Isn't that honest and sincere? I was almost impressed. It was actually more like, it was just a fling with your husband. Please don't tell my family, quickly abandoning my husband to save herself. But I promised not to expose it to the company in light of her sincerity, as long as she paid the compensation. Of course, I would demand compensation from you too. You're being cowardly. What do you mean? Don't play dumb. It's obvious that I'd be suspected the moment you contacted the company. What will you do if strange rumors start spreading? Frustrated by my husband's absurd logic, I explained to him as if he were a child. I'll keep my promise. But I don't know about rumors spreading at work or what the director and his fiancée might do to you guys because of it. If they're responsible people, they might investigate your conduct. I added, making things worse for him. But back to us, if there's evidence of your affair, I can get compensation. It's almost certain that a cheating man won't get custody, and then, you'll also have to pay child support, I mentioned, making him silently frustrated. Eventually, he smirked as if he had thought of something. You don't understand what you've done. If I get fired, I won't be able to pay alimony or child support. No, you'll have to pay regardless. Ever heard of you can't get blood from a stone? If the director finds out, I'll just switch jobs quickly so you can't garnish my wages. I'll run away to the end. His dishonesty was almost impressive at this point. I didn't understand what he wanted anymore. What do you want, is my line, but I had no interest in what he wanted. So, you're saying you won't divorce, pay alimony, or child support? Then, let's go to court. I concluded and finished up the campfire. Then, I went inside to eat some s'mores with my daughter and headed back to my parents' house. A few weeks later, my husband visited my parents' house. He stood at the door in dirty clothes, unkempt hair, and an unshaven beard. He was holding a final notice from the court that must have arrived at his parents' house a few days earlier. What's this all about? Explain yourself. What do you mean? What does it mean? It means just that. I had anticipated that my husband would come here in a frenzy. After all, he had ignored the certified mail from the lawyer and had continuously refused to appear in court. He probably thought that by doing so, everything would just go away, but that's not how it works. The notice that arrived at his parents' house made our in-laws aware of the situation, and I suppose all assets like our house and car were seized by the court through enforcement. I didn't sign the divorce papers. How come the divorce is finalized then? If you had just shown up in court, we could have settled this through discussion, but you decided to skip it. You decided the amount for alimony and child support on your own. I didn't agree to this, so it should be invalid. All that is written in the documents from the court. It's your fault for ignoring them without reading. Ignoring notifications from the court is like accepting the other party's demands in full. My husband didn't seem to understand that. My request was to forego splitting assets due to the divorce in exchange for $60,000 in damages for the affair and $170,000 in child support until our daughter becomes an adult, paid in one lump sum. After that, it seems my husband actually quit his job, making it impossible to garnish his wages, so he had to sell his assets. I've lost the house and the car. I can't even get into my parents' house now that they know. The court is taking everything from me. It's all your own doing. I told you, right? Even if you quit your job, your obligation to pay doesn't disappear. You have to pay no matter what. But no matter what I say, it doesn't seem to reach him. He just stares at one point, muttering to himself. I can't even get in touch with her. And I've received a certified letter from her fiancé. What am I supposed to do now? There were faint tears in my husband's eyes. Normally, seeing him like this might have elicited some sympathy, but it did nothing for me. Without my doing anything, the affair came to the attention of the department head. The other woman admitted her fault in front of her family, the engagement was called off, and she promised to take responsibility to both her former fiancé and me, I heard from the department head. She's showing her sincerity by paying damages to both me and her former fiancé, little by little. What the other woman did is unforgivable, but I think it's admirable that she's facing her sins and taking responsibility. She's young and has plenty of time to start over. So, what are you gonna do? Compared to her, what's the deal with this person in front of me? That was the sentiment packed into that one sentence. I've got no one else to rely on but you. I'm gonna cherish our love this time, for real. My husband extended his hands toward me while muttering in his sleep. It was quite a shift from his earlier yelling demeanor to now, tears welling up as he curled his lips, making me feel like I was watching a horror movie. You know, it's tough for you too, trying to find a job. You've been a homemaker all this time. Not quite. I've been working for a while now. Huh. You may not know, but there are plenty of job opportunities for nurses, even with a gap in employment. In fact, at that moment, I had already returned to work as a nurse at a certain clinic through my connections from my previous job. Upon hearing this, my husband was speechless, his mouth moving without any words coming out. People and things are different. You can't just discard them when you get bored or decide you want them back. It's about time you stop underestimating others. Ignoring my husband's shocked expression, I spat out, "Do your best to run away all you want," and slammed the front door shut. He continued to ring the intercom and bang on the door, so I warned him, "I'll call the police." Finally, with tears streaming down his face, he left. Since then, my husband had disappeared, but I later heard from local news that he had been caught stealing at a convenience store months later and ended up in police custody. I felt sorry and worried for my in-laws, but I heard they decided to sell the house and move far away before my ex-husband finished his sentence. They were good in-laws and grandparents to me and my daughter, so we still keep in touch. Being surrounded by so much love from those around us, seeing my daughter grow up healthy every day is the greatest happiness. With the help of my parents back home, my daughter and I have been able to smoothly transition into our new life.